Now that the X-Men films are finished and likely to be rebooted in the near future, I thought I'd look back at these movies and do something that I've wanted to do for a while. Explain one of the biggest misconceptions about this franchise that I think a lot of people have. And that would be that the X-Men film timeline is completely incoherent and a complete mess. While the X-Men timeline may not be perfect, it definitely has an overall continuity. The first part of the continuity I'd like to explain is Sabertooth, the difference between X-Men Origins Sabertooth and X-Men 1 Sabertooth. In X-Men Origins, Sabertooth comes across as a little suave but also intimidating, and he's very cleaned up and he's very talkative. Whereas in X-Men 1, he barely talks and he's a lot more beastly. Not to mention he's played by a different guy. And it doesn't seem like he knows Wolverine when they first meet each other and start fighting. But that's the thing, I don't think that's a continuity issue. Straight off the bat, I'm going to address this. Recasting is not a continuity error. The MCU's done it all the time, and so do all these other movies that exist. Recasting's not a continuity error, it's recasting. To me, this is simple. The difference in his appearance isn't even that much. His hair is longer and blonde, as opposed to in Origins when it's buzzed and short and brown. But look at Thor in the Thor films and the Avengers films, as opposed to what he looks like in Ragnarok and Infinity War. His hair's long and blonde, and then when it's cut, it's a lot darker. And that's not that big of an issue. See, in the 15 years between X-Men Origins and X-Men 1, he could have grown his hair out longer, it gotten lighter, or he could have just dyed it. As far as his enhanced mutation making him look more beastly, in X-Men 1 he is working with Magneto, who's working on making a machine that enhances humans' DNA to become mutants. It's not hard to believe that Magneto helped him enhance his mutation to become stronger, thus making him more animalistic. And as I've seen certain people on the internet tell me, thankfully, in the comics, Sabertooth does actually evolve over time and become more beastly with age, so it's not that big of an issue. As far as him and Logan not knowing each other, to me that's simple too. At the end of X-Men Origins, Wolverine is shot by the adamantium bullets, erasing his memories. He could have easily forgotten the stuff that went on with him and his brother in X-Men Origins, but he wouldn't have forgotten everything in his life involving his brother. But then there's also the fact that even if he does forget his brother, there is a 15-year gap. That is plenty of time for them to run into each other again and catch up. And, in 15 years, as we see in X-Men 1, clearly nothing's changed between them. And so if they do remember each other, which they probably do, there's no reason to bring up anything about having issues with each other. After 15 years of no change, they see each other, they're just going to fight. And it's not like anyone introduced Wolverine to Sabertooth. This is literally their last meeting in X-Men Origins and their first meeting in X-Men 1.
This doesn't change anything between us, Victor. We're done.
We could never be done, Jimmy. We're brothers, and brothers look out for each other.
Some people say Sabertooth didn't even recognize Wolverine in the first movie, so that doesn't track. What makes you think that they don't recognize each other? They barely talk. Plus, he steals Wolverine's dog tags. All we know is they fight and don't like each other. After 15 years, they don't need to discuss their issues. Nothing suggests that he doesn't recognize him. I think it's just because it's the first movie, so everyone assumes all the characters are just meeting unless otherwise stated. That same logic could be applied to Xavier and Juggernaut. In X-Men 3, Xavier and Juggernaut see each other at Jean's house, but they don't speak. And then in Deadpool 2, Juggernaut tells Fire Fist that Xavier's his brother. Why would they need to talk about it? Clearly, they're not on the same side, and they've known each other most of their life. And shout out to the people who say it's weird that they're cool with each other at the end of X-Men Origins, but not cool with each other in X-Men 1. I guess we're done now means we're cool. And there is a part in X-Men 1 where Xavier says, "The man who attacked you is named Sabertooth." Who's to say he read that part of Logan's mind at that point in the story? Even if he did, why would he tell the X-Men in that scene that that guy was Wolverine's brother? That would cause issues, clearly, especially with Scott. And Logan says, Sabertooth? That sounds like he's learning the character's name and thinks it's stupid. That could easily be changed as he's making fun of his brother's nickname. You know, he doesn't have to tell anyone that they're brothers, especially since at that point, why would he see him as a brother? They keep fighting, they keep having issues. You might also suggest it doesn't make much sense that, you know, Victor's helping Stryker kill mutants in X-Men Origins, but then in X-Men 1, he's helping Magneto stop humans that are killing mutants. And I can see where you'd think that, but there's also the fact that Stryker betrayed Victor in X-Men Origins. You know, he promised him the adamantium, and then he said he couldn't have it. You know, he betrayed him. And then by the time of X-Men 1, dealing with people like Stryker could have flipped his opinion on the issue. So now, not only is he not killing mutants, but he's helping stop the people who do, just in a violent way like he would. Thus, it makes sense he would join Magneto. Victor stealing the adamantium tags is just basically him taking a trophy from kicking Wolverine's ass. Jealousy over the fact that Stryker gave Wolverine more attention and buffed him up to become more powerful than Sabertooth, something that Sabertooth wanted to be more powerful than Logan most of his life, it seems. One more issue is that in X-Men 1, Sabertooth is hit with the laser from Scott, and it seems like he dies, but then in X-Men Origins, we see point blank he gets hit by Weapon 11 and he survives. That could look like a continuity error, but just think of it like they're setting up the idea that Sabertooth could have actually survived X-Men 1. They just never got to it, which in my opinion is one of the biggest tragedies of that character in the X-Men films. Sabertooth was so underutilized, and he was going to be in Logan, but then they took him out so they could focus on more of Wolverine sulking. And honestly, I don't have a problem with them making Sabertooth Wolverine's brother. I've heard in the comics they're not related, but I feel like given their personalities, that adds an extra layer to their conflict and as to why they fight so much. I think personally a lot of continuity errors in the X-Men films could be explained just like Sabertooth. Hopefully if I continue this X-Men series of fixing continuity errors, the X-Men films will make a lot more sense. And then maybe one day the timeline being a mess meme will die. Forever. Although I have to say I doubt it. But I can try.